Hello and welcome to today's episode number 18 of the Human Conditioned Podcast. I'm your host, American Council on Exercise Certified Personal Trainer, Gary Jones. On today's episode, I am going to be talking about something that is very exciting to me, like to an uncontrollable level. And then I'm going to be talking about something that's very irritating to me, also on a mildly uncontrollable level, which I am aware are two totally different feelings to have in one sitting, but it's a podcast, so anything goes. First, I want to start by talking about the thing that is very exciting to me. And it's exciting to me for multiple reasons, but let me tell the backstory. In 2019, I was deployed, and a friend of mine and our spouses decided that we were going to sign up and train for a Spartan Race. So we were going to come home, and then I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 months after we got home that it was going to happen. However, if anybody who remembers, in 2020, the whole world shut down from COVID. And so everything got canceled and closed and shuttered. And for whatever reason, I never signed up for another race. I mean, it would have been difficult for me to do so. I mean, I guess I could have. I had the time, but I ended up deploying again less than just under 2 years after I had gotten home. So anyway, I stayed on the email list. I still get the emails. And over a month ago, I had gotten an email from Spartan Race that said they were putting on something called Project 300. And what Project 300 is a 200-day challenge / study, because it is a study, a cohort study, where they take 300 people and they essentially provide them with every single tool you could possibly need, external, and then they put you, like fitness tracking, like food, like coaches. They provide you with everything. So all you need to provide from you is yourself and your time. And so I, for two reasons, was very excited about this. I applied for it immediately. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? One, because I, for a lot of personal reasons, want to be part of this study. I need that kind of, I'm at a point in my life right now where I think I need the extrinsic motivation, and I need to be reminded what it's like to face the grit and the grind and really just be excited about fitness again. And there's something about competing with alongside other people. You're not competing necessarily against people, but you're alongside people. For me personally, there's this embrace the suck kind of thing when you're with other people, and it's the military. Obviously, it's the military background in me that really loves it. And it's with a group of people just outside sweating, you're dirty. For whatever reason in that environment, it's you're not miserable. You're just alive and happy. And it's weird. But anyway, yeah, there's so many other personal reasons why I signed up for this, but that's really the big one. I just want that spark again. And since applying for it, it has, my whole Instagram feed is now full of obstacle course races or competition type races, High Rocks keeps showing up or whatever. And it's getting me excited again. I still begrudgingly exercise. It's definitely a task for me still, but now I'm doing it because I'm there's an ends to this means. And it's a feeling that I haven't had in quite some time, which I know is shocking to say from a health coach perspective. I'm ugh, I don't want to work out today. But that is a very personal thing to me. That detachment from fitness. It was my whole life. I used to love it. I had to get my workout in for the day just to feel right. And a pretty major bout of depression is what ruined that for me. I don't know what switch was flipped. I don't know how to flip it back, but the only way to figure that out is to work through it. And so I really think that this might be a good thing for me. But besides that, besides all the personal, sappy, whatever feelings, this is a cohort study. And if you've listened to my podcast or you know me, you know that I love data. I love research. I just love the science. I want to read about it. I want to research it. I want to know it. I want to understand it, because understanding the human body and human potential is what really, really helps health coaches with behavior change. Excuse me. And so I started, really thinking about this from an analytical perspective, from like my science mind, because even if I don't get into this program, I will I will be very sad, because I tried to meter my hopes in a lot of situations in order not to get them like destroyed, but I think it got on a runaway train for me this time. So like my hopes are still super high. They haven't selected anybody yet. But anyway, even if I don't get it, the implications of this study are massive. And I don't know that the true impact of what this could mean can be realized until after it's done, which won't be, I think, until June. The middle of June. And then, of course, they're going to have to spend however long scraping together all the data, and then creating whatever products are going to come out of this. But it's a massive undertaking. And so, like, you have to think from the jump. You don't really know what the attrition rate is going to be from start to finish. They're fully expecting 50% of the people to drop off by the end. And the shocking thing that happened, like right at the beginning, was they were not expecting the amount of applicants they got. They got 80,000 applications that they were supposed to boil down into 300 people. The very, very first test was not a test of time or physical exertion. There was nothing involved. All you really needed was like your phone or your computer and to click on a link that they sent. And thousands and thousands and thousands of people didn't do it. And so that's a little mind-boggling to me, because obviously for most people who did this, they had their reasoning in applying. And so like just failing the first test right off the cuff is like, the reason must not have been that strong, which is telling to me as a health coach, that people don't really know how to motivate themselves. But anyway, so they had so many people drop off from the jump, but from start to finish, so it starts in the beginning of January and then it finishes in June. They don't know what the attrition rate is going to be, and so it's really hard to kind of like have predictive analysis models based off of the amount of people you started with, regardless of what physical shape they were in to begin with. Another issue that comes with announcing your study so far in advance of it beginning is something called the Hawthorne effect. And what this does is like people will tend to perform and do better strictly because they feel like they're being watched. This used to happen a lot when they were trying to study like factory workers back in the day. Like, they would come to try to study the factory workers, and all of a sudden like productivity rose, and it was only because they were being watched. I don't know how a researcher would account for that in this specific scenario, because I guess what they're measuring is from your day one to your last day. And so even if you started exercising ahead of time, which it's Spartan, they want you to do that. They're asking for people to send in like their exercise videos. They want to see the type of person that you are before they decide whether or not you're going to be a part of this. And so they want to see you exercising. And so if you're a person that like really didn't exercise beforehand, you're obviously going to, once you start exercising, come into the very beginning of this study in better shape than you were when you applied. But I guess like that's to be expected. And if you're taking that into account, then you're only going from day one of the study to the last day. And I don't know how strict or stringent or like aggressive this program is going to be. So anybody could probably benefit from it. Um, whether you're like somebody who runs Spartan races like every 3 months or you're somebody who's never worked out before, there has to be some level of physiological change from start to finish. And so, other than the Hawthorne effect, there is another issue because of the way that this is not a clinical study. Like you're not doing this in a clinical setting. You're not moving into, you know, a research facility to be studied from whatever. So like then you're introducing something like self-reporting biases. So the expectation during the course of this is that you're documenting your journey, and then you're also being open and honest with your coach. And you can end up running into a problem here where people are going to tell you something because they don't want to disappoint you or themselves. And so if they fail, there's a tendency to want to fudge the truth a little bit. And so I don't know in this regard, I don't know how you account for that in a full study to avoid major skewing of the numbers. I would hope that most people, the type of people who have applied for this and the type of people that they're combing through to select for processes like this, they would be less inclined to do so. But if you have a lot riding on it, then I can see where you might fall into that trap, especially because one of the one of the, I'm just going to call it a rule because the word is escaping my brain right now. One of the rules is if you quit or fail the study, and I don't think that they mean fail as in like you messed up 1 week. I think they mean fail as in like you're continuously not meeting any criteria or standard. You have to pay back the cash value of everything that you were given up until that point, which just from what I can see on what they're planning on providing people would be a lot. And so I guess you would then financially, the financial incentive is there to kind of like protect yourself. And so there is another issue in self-reporting bias. And then there's like the interpretation. Like, what are we interpreting the data here? Are we interpreting the actual transformations, like the physiological data, or are we interpreting the compliance to the program itself, which can be one and the same, but not. So like in one regard, you're showing the data points that come with really taking ownership of your own transformation. And in the other regard, like you're testing people's ability to comply to a program for 200 days. And maybe the possibility exists that they're tracking both. They want to see what they can accomplish in terms of transformation of the participants and how possible is it to get people to stick to something when all the tools are given to you. And that segues beautifully into my next point in this study is that the implications of what comes out of this could be huge for the health and fitness and wellness community in terms of like how we coach people, in terms of how people interpret struggle or motivation, extrinsic, intrinsic. It's huge. And you know, in a very general sense, what you are proving is that if you provide people with the tools, they can change. They can transform themselves because really it is about you can have all the external tools in the world, including coaches, and they could be a great coach. But if you're not ready, or you don't want to, or this is too much, then it's really the failure point uh, is you. And that sounds so harsh to say because it's not for lack of it's not for me trying to be harsh. It's just for lack of not having the vernacular at the moment because my brain is not. Whenever I'm recording a podcast, my brain runs faster than my mouth. And so it's hard enough for me to just say what I'm thinking. But when a word escapes me, I have to try very hard to find the next word. Otherwise, I will just stare off into space. But still drinking my morning coffee. I think this is the earliest I've ever recorded a podcast. Anyway, I think let me just, because I don't want to speak for all of the health and fitness and wellness community from a professional standpoint. Let me just talk about it from my perspective. If I were to see the data coming out of this study and I could see that given all of the tools, most participants were very successful in A, completing the 200-day program, and B, having these physiological responses, improved blood work, improved fitness performance. I would then know that the tools are extremely helpful. And so that would help me tailor my coaching to then asking, the interviewing portion of it, asking you what tools you have available to you, and then trying to find workarounds. Like Project 300 is going to give you a fitness tracker. And then as my client, you don't have access to a fitness tracker. Okay, well, then our workaround is to then journal these things, to track them manually. Because they, in the study or whatever, they might have determined that people who track their fitness tended to perform better. So yeah, it's going to be really eye-opening and really informative. And I'm so curious to see what data comes out of this. And I really, really hope that they do publish it because it's huge. My mission right now, what I'm actively trying to do is to figure out how to get myself in front of enough people to educate them on health and wellness that we can, as a society, lower our risk of chronic conditions that have been running rampant for years. Metabolic conditions, certain types of cancers, chronic inflammation, autoimmune disorders that are non-genetically related. And so I just want to see this data because I have all the books you can see behind me if you're watching this podcast instead of listening to it. I plan on building out that library, and so if they publish this data publicly, it would just inform me better as a health coach as to what works for some people, because it's going to take a certain type of person to look at Project 300 and be like, that is what I want. And so already you're ruling out a majority of the population, but you can take these results and you can make them flexible for other people. But anyway, my hopes are on a runaway train right now. I want to get into it so bad just because I don't know, there's something about that grind. And I know I've said on this podcast before that it's not always about the grind, but for me, it is about the grind. But I'm just, it's me as an individual person. That's not me as a health coach. I'm not out here coaching people to love the grind. It's just that's what motivates me. And I really, really would like to feel that type of motivation again. And so I applied. I've started preparing for it, I guess is the right word. They just, posting exercise videos. I use my Instagram more for this challenge because although I try to post every day on TikTok, TikTok is, I'm going to call it sensitive. So like one day you could have 7,000 views on a video and the next day you could have 7. And that is, the swing of that is, I don't know. It seems like sticking with more of like the tried and true types of social media might work better in my favor. Who knows? I don't know if I'm going to keep TikTok. It's hard enough to like dedicate the time to recording. I mean, it's like once a month recording a podcast. That's fine. But also like making sure that I'm getting enough content to put across all of my platforms. I have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I have an email. I should make an email list, but I don't have one. Spotify for my podcast and TikTok, which is a lot. It's a lot it's a lot of time to dedicate to something that is not profitable yet, which I keep talking about, and I will probably keep talking about until I become profitable, because it's just a struggle. And I think, if you're a health and fitness professional and you're trying to start your own business, like sometimes it might be nice to hear that somebody else is struggling with the same thing you are. Anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is the thing that irritates me. And this is something I discovered recently. And I'm not going to use names of businesses or people or whatever the case is. I'm just going to try to speak about this as generally as possible. And the problem is one of the parts is going to be not general enough, and you could easily figure out what I'm talking about if you Google it. But hold on, let me take a sip of coffee, because once I get going about something that annoys me, I just keep going. Okay. I had thought about for some time having a brick and mortar location where I could meet with clients face to face, and that's where I could do all of my assessments and my coaching. However, the cost of that right now would be too high. I would be having to take out loans just to fund this, and there's no guarantee that I would be in the black in enough time to pay back that loan and not go under. And I refuse to be irresponsible just to like get ahead. It's not for the aesthetics, the business part. So in the amount of time that I was like looking around my area for commercial real estate, I kid you not, a wellness center, a health and wellness center, bought a location 3 minutes up the road from my house. This is a place that I didn't know existed in our area, and I think the only reason they bought it was to expand outward. But anyway, so I started doing research, and I was like, I didn't even know we had stuff like this around here, which obviously was like, I felt a little jealous, a little begrudging, a little aggressive, if you will. But in looking into the business, I'm on their webpage, and a lot of what they have is supplements and like things that are on the line of being pseudoscience in terms of what you could provide somebody. They have health coaching, and the health coach page shows the person who does the health coaching mentions nothing about their credentialing and what makes them qualified to provide personalized health plans for people, or personalized food plans for people. The only people who should be allowed to do that are dietitians. So that was my first red flag. And I thought maybe they can't be the only person that works there. So I started looking, I was trying to look at their pricing. Their pricing is not transparent in any way, shape, or form. You have to schedule the appointment before they'll show you the price for it. And I didn't go as far as to schedule it, but I did notice the name of the person who was on for all of the intake for these schedulings is a nurse. And, excuse me. And their qualification as a nurse was that they've just been doing nursing for a very long time in several different departments. And so then they decided that they'd seen enough and they wanted to be part of the solution. And so they went and got specific training from a nutrition program. And this nutrition program was invented by a chiropractor. And I'm not trying to knock the fact that people are creating systems and teaching others, and other people are trying to take these systems and apply them to health and wellness in order to improve the population's overall health. The problem is, in this industry, a lot of things come across to the average person as a valid credential. And I don't necessarily agree that that's the appropriate thing. I have a health coaching business. I am not a certified health coach yet. It's in the works. I plan on doing that. I don't have any clients right now, so I don't necessarily, I'm not practicing something that I'm not qualified for. I, across my platforms, provide general knowledge and a little bit of motivation. But health coaching is different. It's almost unfair to tell somebody that you are a thing, and for this person to believe that that thing means that they can trust you with your health and wellness. And I looked at the words are hard this morning. I looked at the testimonials from people, and what I noticed was, from my professional opinion, that most things that people were saying, the benefits that they were experiencing, are just benefits that you get from generally making better lifestyle choices. And so to try to attach these opinions, or not opinions, these testimonials to these kind of borderline pseudoscience things, and then claim that those are the things that are helping, it's a little disingenuous to me. And so that is unfortunately another face of the coin in terms of the health and wellness industry. I don't want to say that these people didn't mean well. Obviously, they're benefiting from getting money from these things, but it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. It's kind of upsetting. And like, for me personally, it's upsetting from, like, I'm trying to launch this business. I'm trying to be as genuine and as transparent and as science-backed as possible, but I get buried underneath content in businesses like this. And so the struggle's there. And I might, I'm not ashamed to admit that the possibility exists that I might be nitpicking a little too hard because I am jealous of other people's successes. But I really feel like it's important. You need to put that stuff on your website. You need to put, that you don't have the credentialing to do health coach, or excuse me, to do nutrition coaching, that you don't have the credentialing as a health coach or a fitness professional, that you're, like, here is what your license is in, and here's how you feel it applies to the industry. Don't make it seem like that is the thing that qualifies you to do the thing. Just be honest with people. And I feel like that's what people would appreciate most, because do you know how mad I would be if I spent all of that money on the services that they provide just to find out that like they that it was a stretch to be able to say that they were the person to be able to provide you with that type of information. And it may be different for most people. But anyway, this is the type of stuff that irritates me a ton when it comes to the health and wellness industry. It's like the disingenuous people, the making a stretch, the not being transparent, the overly manipulative tactics of supplement industries and people trying to just sell their plans and their cookbooks and all that stuff. Just be honest. Honesty would just go so much farther. And if we were more honest, and if we took advantage of people less, and it became less about the money, I really think that we could make a huge impact across the population in terms of health and wellness. And so, yeah, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I really hope that I can edit this podcast in a way that's like cuts it all out. But for whatever reason, my microphone keeps shutting off. And so in order to avoid me having to make more chops to the podcast, I think now is a good time to end it. I might have rambled a little bit in terms of the things that irritate me about what I found recently, but it is what it is. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you want me to talk about something in particular, or if you just want to hear whether or not I got into Project 300, you can find this podcast on Spotify, on YouTube, and it also is on my website. I have a link tree now, which I will try to update all of my platforms with, so that way, no matter where you find me, you can find me everywhere else also without having to look super hard. So, yeah. Until next time.